Okay, a friend of mine asked me to comment on the upcoming Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson bout. In addition to that, a subscriber asked me to comment on the possible Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez fight. Within 24 hours, I will be posting a video, God willing, on both of those particular matches. The only reason why I'm commenting on either one of them, well, two reasons. One is because of a friend, Jack Tilson, from across the pond in the UK. He asked me to comment on the Jake Paul Mike Tyson fight, and I think he hit on something that is extremely important, and only somebody like him would mention. And I will mention it in the videos, but only somebody with the experience that he has as a doorman would notice or bring up or even consider what he considered. And I've considered the same thing in regards to Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. But a subscriber asked me to say something about the upcoming, or perhaps, I don't know if it's upcoming, but the potential Terrence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. And the only reason why I'm doing it, besides the fact that a subscriber asked, because if I wasn't interested, I would let them down easy, but I wouldn't comment. It's because I think many people are missing something. And I want to point out what they're missing. They're overlooking something. And it's extremely important. There is a time when you should fight someone. And there's a time when it's not very good to fight that person, or when you have a chance of beating them, but your chance of beating them is slimmer than had you fought them prior to them experiencing something. And there is something that people are missing in regards to Terrence Crawford and Canelo Alvarez, and within the next 24 hours, I will post a video talking about what people are missing when it comes down to that potential matchup. I am also going to post a video talking about telling young, they may not be too young, but people who want to try to get into professional MMA, how they can actually really get noticed and the skill sets they need to master. But in this particular video, I want to piggyback on the last video I did when I talked about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I think I titled it, "The UFC Doesn't Want Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu." Let me be very clear on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has a value. It has a value. Taught right. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has a higher value than other martial arts like capoeira, and there's other martial arts that I think it actually has a higher value. It might surprise some people to know that I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually has a higher value on average than boxing. If you were grappling, you're not actually boxing. Now, you might call it dirty boxing, you might call it whatever else you want to call it, but pugilism. But if you're really grappling, it's not boxing. Because I assume most people, when they talk about boxing, they are not talking about dirty boxing. They are not talking about boxing for MMA. They are talking about boxing as they see it in the ring. And when you're talking about that kind of boxing, your only hope is to knock someone out. Because of that, I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu actually is a more viable art than actually boxing. My issue with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the fat. It is the immense amount of fat that is taught in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is totally unnecessary. That's one. It is also taught in a spiritual type of way. I don't think spiritualism has any part in the martial arts. There are people who train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like it's some kind of therapy. Okay? It should be taught more ballistically. There should be an aggression. All friendship should be thrown out the window when you are practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If it was practiced in a more ballistic sense, I think it would be fantastic. Why? Because much of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was done with the gi. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a gi art. In most parts of the world, people wear some kind of clothing. If you do not know how to manipulate clothing, you are leaving, I think, at least 30% of your ability to fight on the table. The problem with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the fact that people continue to put in there in order to make you take 10 years to earn a black belt, which is totally unnecessary. it is also taught in a way that is not conducive to building someone who is familiar or who is even adequate or competent in real combat. That is my major issue, and I want to be very clear with that. My issue is the fact. If people said, well, you know what, you should have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu up to blue belt, I would say 100%, you will never hear me criticize Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu again. If people would just be honest and say, like Hickson said, like I've said 12 years ago, like I've been saying for 12 years, up to blue belt and rolling. Get a blue belt, up to blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, find somebody to roll and roll aggressively. Roll aggressively up to get a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, learn those submissions, learn a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu up to blue belt curriculum, from white to blue curriculum, find somebody to roll with and roll aggressively. Mix that with wrestling takedowns, wrestling rides and pins, with some striking, and you can fight. You can fight. My issue is it is a scam, and that scam and that marketing is designed to help people stay in business. And I'm telling you, that is my major issue. I would never say Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has no place, but the way it is taught and the amount of fat that is put in there in order to keep people as students, I think is immoral. It is unethical, and that's my major problem with it. I want to be perfectly clear on this issue. Now what I want to do is talk about what the actual issue is with these people claiming that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the ultimate martial art. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a scenario. And then I'll help you understand where I'm going, what the problem is with people who are BJJ fanatics. Here we go. There's a good MMA fighter, fictitious MMA fighter. He comes out. He throws a lead leg round kick. Lead leg roundhouse kick. I'm not a big supporter of using the back leg if not necessary. I like to keep the individual. I think people should keep the individual in front of them, which enables them to start throwing their punches. You throw a lead leg round kick, your hands are here. You can throw your shots. You can throw your punches, and then you can easily shoot in, or you can get some kind of attachment, some kind of a Greco-Roman tie-up, some kind of a Muay Thai clinch. But it's easier for you to do that if you're kicking off the front leg, okay? The back leg should be used as a finishing move. All right, the man is already hobbling, or you want to get him in a compromising position before you shoot in, okay, off the back leg. But basically, I think that people should do most of their kicking off the front leg, and particularly the low roundhouse kick or low, or the roundhouse kick off from the lead leg. But let's say this person comes out and they throw lead leg off the lead roundhouse kick, okay. Then they throw a hard cross and hard hook. All right. The next thing they do, they throw a hard roundhouse kick from the back leg, leg kick. Okay, bang. Now they come back with a hook and straight straight right. Okay, assuming the person is left lead. After they throw that shot, the man raises his hands. The fighter then attaches himself with a full body lock. He then transitioned from a full body lock into an over and under, wrestling over a collar and underhook. He throws a hard knee, elbow releases the arm that has the underhook, throws an elbow, he drops down, picks the man up, dumps him. The man turns over, his opponent turns over in the turtle position. The MMA fighter then takes his back, flattens him out, rear naked choke. Now, let's back up. Leg kick, Muay Thai. Okay? The hands, you could say boxing, you could say Dutch kickboxing. Okay? He comes in for a tie-up, some kind of tie-up, this Greco-Roman. He then transitions into a Muay Thai clinch, or a Muay Thai clinch, basic Muay Thai clinch, right? Okay, whether you hold your hands here, hands here. People say don't lace your hands. I tend to lace my hands. I've never had a problem. Okay, so you go ahead and you get that clinch. Now that's Muay Thai. So we have Muay Thai, boxing, Greco-Roman, Muay Thai. He picks the man up, he dumps him. Okay, that can be done a judo throw, or Greco-Roman. Okay, now we have judo, Greco-Roman. He holds the man down for a moment, maybe a seatbelt. Okay, now we're talking about wrestling, whether folk or freestyle wrestling. Okay, he flattens him out, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at that point. Rear naked choke, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at that point. The man gets kicked. It's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The man gets stunned with that kick. Right? That's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that does that, which sets up the hands. The hands is boxing. It's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that does that. Or Dutch kickboxing. It's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that does that. Okay? He then comes back in. He picks the man up. He dumps him. That's wrestling that does that. He holds him down. That's wrestling that does that. The man turns over, right? Exposing his back and obviously his neck. Okay? Then the man takes the MMA fighter, flattens him out. He gets the rear naked choke. Okay? Now we're talking about BJJ. So my point is this. At what point are you going to say that the reason why that man is successful is because of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? All of the things that have happened in that fight is what happens in my fictitious fight happens in the cage. And when a person is wrestled into exhaustion, or they're battered into exhaustion, then the BJJ is then locked on. Okay? My point is, it's not that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not a valid martial art. My point is that it makes up a very small percentage of the overall game of a good to great MMA fighter. It makes up a small percentage of the overall game of a good MMA and certainly a great MMA fighter. I am not saying it is not part of MMA. I am not saying that people should not train in it. What I am saying is, if all you think is that what you need, if somebody's telling you, this is what I'm saying, if someone is telling you all you need is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if someone's telling you that's all you need is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I am telling you you need to consult Kron Gracie. You need to consult Damian Maia. No matter how good Damian Maia is, he's not an all-time top 20 MMA fighter. Not even all-time top 20. Okay? And he has had some of the greatest accomplishments in BJJ. Some of the greatest accomplishments in BJJ were earned by Damian Maia. Now, can you say that he beat some wrestlers? Absolutely. Sure. But if the man is not top 20 and his BJJ accomplishments, gi and no gi, are some of the most profound accomplishments in the history of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he is not even top 20, then your argument fades. Your argument fades. But then let's look at somebody like Matt Hughes, right? Matt Hughes, terrible hands. Terrible hands, right? All-time great. All-time great. There are wrestlers who did not have great hands that went on to do more than Damian Maia, in spite of Damian Maia's stellar credentials as a sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist. Now, what I find is many people are resistant. And they are resistant for several reasons. And I understand why they're resistant for several reasons. By the way, the guy who asked about the NLP videos I will be posting on my new channel. I am urging people like you, if you're interested in what I have to say, I'm urging people like you to subscribe to my new channel. For some reason, there are people who are afraid of it, and I guess, I can understand. They're afraid of what I'm going to say. If you're afraid of the truth on any issue, if you're afraid of changing the way you see things to be a more complete human being, then of course, then you will not subscribe to the channel. Anyway, to that gentleman who wants to know about NLP, I am going to, on this particular channel, give some information. I'll talk a little bit because someone asked me what is NLP, and I will do a video explaining what it is in a very easy way. People make it extremely difficult to understand. I do use it. I use it for myself. Anything that does not contradict with Islam, I do look into it. If it contradicted with Islam, if it was an atheistic type of practice or something that was against the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, then I would totally disregard it. For me, everything I am good is based on me being Muslim, not being Arab, but being Muslim. Okay, and again, I have said this before. If you understand the Arabic language, then you also come to understand that it is not an Arabic religion. That is not an Arab religion. And if we continue to let Arabs say that it is an Arab religion, then we really deserve to be called stupid. Okay, but that's something else. And this is not to say that Arabs are not Muslims. Some of the greatest people I know, some people I'm extremely close to, some people I'm closer to than I am to black people, happen to be Arabs. But my whole point is, even they will say that Arabs are only 13% of the Muslim population, and therefore, based on them being Arabs, should not be seen as being a spokespeople for Islam. Back to the matter at hand. All that I am saying is, if you have a roundhouse kick and a person gets buckled, then you throw 2 punches and the person gets stunned, and then you get into some kind of Greco-Roman tie-up, then you transition into a Muay Thai clinch, then you throw an uppercut, or you throw an uppercut, or you throw a knee, you throw an elbow, then you transition back into a double leg, and you take the individual down, then the individual tries to turn over, and you assume a turtle position, and you grab him in a kind of seatbelt, and you catch him with some shots. Okay, then you flatten him out, you get your hooks in, you flatten him out, and you get the rear naked choke. Sure, at that point the finisher is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu technique, but that's not what started off, and that's not what made it easier. It also does not necessitate that you spend $200 a month for 10 years to learn that particular choke. Okay, when a $25 DVD and somebody to practice with would do just as well. That is my point. That is my only point. Now, some of this resistance to listening to me, I do believe, comes on the heels of me being black. Well, you can continue to get your behind beat if you want. You can continue to believe that you know about fighting if you want. But if you don't listen to me and you don't at least come to my channel, then you're missing out on what fighting really is and what it really takes to be even a good sports combative competitor. Okay? So that is my answer, and that is my kind of follow-up to the last video I did. Okay, my issue with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu today, ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen, more gentlemen than ladies, I'm sure, it's always been that way and probably always will be that way, is the fact that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has much too much fat, and I think that's deliberate. I think it is designed, okay? If the Gracies, Henner and Hobger, if they said, and they did say, that only 24 techniques are necessary from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to be a good street fighter. Only 24 techniques from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, okay? He said that, they said, no, they didn't say to be a good street fighter. They said that only 24 techniques actually work in the street. 24 out of maybe 600 of techniques from Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Now, if they said that themselves, if Rickson Gracie said it himself, and I do have a video showing him saying it, if Rickson Gracie said it himself, that the blue belt, white to blue belt, is the hardest belt to get, and by the time you get blue belt, you know basically every move you need to know to be a good fighter. All you need to do after that is to make them second nature. If he said that himself, then my point is accurate. Then my views are accurate. I have no problem with somebody learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu from white to blue, and learning those techniques, learning how to roll ballistically, put them with some striking, some wrestling throws, and you're on your way to having a very good, very functional, attractive and marketable MMA style. But if you're going to continue to come into my forums talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the ultimate martial art and you need a brown belt, you need a black belt, you will absolutely nutso. Okay, so there we go. In another video, I will be giving some hints, or I will be giving some advice to people trying to get into professional mixed martial arts and what you need to develop your game. My name is Safe Carmen. This is Uma Fight Camp. I'm the walking encyclopedia of martial arts. Let's see you next video.